views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up on today's show, we'll give you an update on what's been going on right here in the borough of the Bronx. Plus, we'll sit down with Councilwoman Vanessa Gibson discussing the rezoning of Jerome Avenue and the effects it will have on her district. After that, we'll sit down with our political commentator to discuss the Senate passing the biggest tax bill that affects millions of Americans. We'll bring you the very latest. Then we'll hear about a new project that is looking to help thousands of people across the nation that are unable to post bail for misdemeanors. Then lastly, we're going to hear from an organization looking to help improve NYC communities by giving grants to everyday New Yorkers. So find out how Bronxites can sign up for grants and more. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, December 20th. Of course, you're watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We want to encourage you to stay connected to us, and you can find out more about us at Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, a lot's been going on over this busy week, and we'll catch you up now with some local Bronx updates. The New York City Department of Education is shutting down 14 low-performing schools by the end of the academic year. 9 of the 14 schools facing closure are part of the de Blasio administration's renewal program for struggling schools. Now, one of the 5 non-renewal schools the city wants to close is the Urban Assembly School for Wildlife Conservation. The middle school and high school actually made headlines recently when a student was fatally stabbed by another student in September. The city also plans to merge 5 other struggling schools with nearby schools that are more effective. The closures will leave 39,000 students searching for new homes and 4,000 teachers seeking for new jobs. The vote is proposed, or I should say the vote for the proposed school closures will take place in February, while the vote for school mergers will take place in March. Well, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announced the launch of the nation's most comprehensive paid family policy, set to take effect January 1st. New Yorkers that are eligible for the paid family policy are new parents who've welcomed a child, or people who are taking their family members with serious health conditions, or I should say taking care of their family members with serious health conditions, and those who have family members who are called to active military service abroad. Under the new terms, the family members will be allowed 8 weeks of paid time in 2018 and up to 12 weeks by 2021. Now, for more information, you can visit www.ny.gov/paidfamilyleave or call the Paid Family Hotline at 1-844-337-6303. Once again, 844-337-6303. The New York City Department of Transportation is looking to expand its bike sharing programs. The move will allow the Bronx and Staten Island to complement the existing bike program for city. Well, the DOT issued a request for expressions of the interest for bike sharing programs that aren't serviced by City Bike. And by 2018, the city wants to deploy bikes that can be rented anywhere in the area without the need for docks. Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. stated, quote, "The people of the Bronx have shown incredible enthusiasm for bike sharing programs, and this represents an excellent opportunity to explore and examine innovative new ideas that can finally make bike sharing a reality in our borough." In other news, the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development began accepting applications for affordable housing lotteries at the Essex Crossing. on the Lower East Side and Hell's Kitchen, this according to AM News. Now, in the Bronx, St. Augustine Apartments, located at 1180 Fulton Avenue, has 76 affordable housing units that are part of the lottery. Now, Bronxites who are interested in the apartment should look forward to an outdoor terrace, an indoor bike storage room, and a huge community room. Now, two people making between $27,000 and $38,000 could rent a studio apartment for $718 a month, while three people making around $37,000 to $43,000 will be able to rent for about $1,000 a month. 7% of the affordable housing units are for people with disabilities, and 50% of the units in each building will be set aside for applicants who live within the community board district. Now, the deadline to apply for the Essex Crossing is February 13th. St. Augustine's deadline is February 15th, and 572 11th Avenue, February 16th. Well, switching gears and other news, Lehman Stages held its 4th annual Breakfast with Santa, and friends gathered together to enjoy the holiday spirit. Our reporter Ed Martinez was there and brings us the story.
Lehman Stages presented its 4th annual Breakfast with Santa in the Lehman College Faculty Dining Room, where kids and parents gathered for breakfast, live music, and of course, Santa Claus. Director of Lehman Stages, Dante Aliberti, brought the idea of Breakfast with Santa after having his own mom bring him to one upstate, and is happy to bring even more holiday cheer to the Bronx.
We have a range of events that we do at Lehman Stages. We do stuff during the summer. This holiday event, the first time we did it, completely just took off. So we like to build tradition. If something works like this, if the community says, hey, we like it, we like to bring it back, and we like to make it just a little bit better each year.
This is my first year doing this, and I really liked it. I was not expecting to have this turnout, to have many people here.
It's always Christmas when you wake up to a beautiful day. This is my 3rd year doing it. I used to be the executive chef here at one time, so it's great to be back.
I love it. I think the kids have a wonderful experience of meeting Santa and having breakfast. It's nice. It's holiday season. Let them enjoy.
Every year I love when Santa comes.
This is Ed Martinez, BronxNet.
And thank you, Ed. And it's always a fun time during this time of year. Listen, stay tuned. We got to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open right after this. The rezoning of Jerome Avenue has sparked a major controversy throughout the Bronx, leaving some people upset on the effect it will have on the community. Joining us now to discuss this important issue, we welcome now the council member of the 16th District, Vanessa Gibson, and good to have you.
Thank you.
So here we are. We're talking about Jerome Avenue again and the rezoning, and your thoughts. Give us your take.
It's been a long 3-year process. We started in 2014 with a proposal of the Jerome neighborhood plan that was administered by the Department of City Planning. And I would say in year 3, we've made significant progress. This is a plan that obviously is going to look at 92 miles of the area between Community Boards 4 and Community Boards 5, about 92 blocks. And that's really important. It's looking at upzoning, so it's looking at residential area, commercial manufacturing, it's looking at upzoning, and it's really looking at making the neighborhood more vibrant, keeping in line with the characteristics of the neighborhood, the seniors, the senior centers, the homeowners, the multiple family dwellings, and making sure that we can provide greater amenities in parks and open space, mass transit, more schools, and really making sure that ultimately we can create an environment that provides more opportunity as well as more families with an increased population.
And when we talk about this, I want to go back to the borough president. It's going to create about 4,000 new jobs. 1,500 of them will be affordable. Borough president says, that's not enough. I want about 2,000. Agree, disagree?
So the proposal is a projected 4,000 units of new construction. And what I will also say is with that, we're also looking at preserving the existing affordable housing we have through HPD tax credits and other incentive programs. We want to uplift the families that live there today. The majority of the residents and families in our district are not happy with their current living conditions. So we have to look at preserving, we have to look at preservation, we have to look at enhancing their quality of life while making sure that for existing families and potentially new families, we have new opportunities at growth and new housing.
So the plan goes to the City Planning Commission next, I'm correct? And then the City Council?
So where we are now in the public review process, the ULURP process, the City Planning Commission had its hearing earlier this month. They have 30 days in which they will make a decision by mid-January. January 17th is the day. And then the City Council will receive the proposals and the recommendations. We have 50 days in which we have to hold a hearing at the City Council. And then most likely, after that process, the City Council will take a vote in early March.
What are we hearing so far amongst your members of the City Council?
So many of my colleagues obviously understand that this is something that's going to have a transformative impact on my district, as well as Councilmember Fernando Cabrera, my neighbor in District 14. So while they understand the threat of push out and price out, they obviously are concerned about deep affordability, about maintaining stability for families, for seniors, low-income families, immigrants, children, public education, everything that we truly care about, all the fabrics of our communities. We want to keep that stable and whole. But I do think that when it comes to land use items, there has been this rule in the council that every council member follows the position of that particular council member and their district. So to say that my colleagues are with me, they are with me. If I believe this is the best interest of my district and Fernando agrees with me, then my colleagues will stand with me.
That's awesome. Now, give me a little bit about 3 years in the making. Obviously, this has been going on for some time. Give us where we are today. It's been a long time in this process.
Right.
A lot of controversy, a lot of going back and forth. Are you satisfied with where you are right now?
So I think we have made progress, but I am still not at a point where I'm totally satisfied. We have a long way to go. We have unfunded school seats in school districts 9 and 10, almost 2,000 school seats that are unfunded. We have an overcrowding issue in our school district, so we need to look at new school seat opportunities for public education. We have a housing crisis. We have families living at or below the federal poverty level. They're struggling to pay rent every month, so we need to achieve deep affordability. We have many residents, young men and women of color, that need good paying jobs so they can take care of themselves and their families. So any new construction opportunity, we want to make sure that there's a local hiring provision and MWBE provisions, minority and women owned businesses. You know, there are a lot of things that we're looking at. While this is a zoning textual amendment, meaning moving from an R7 to an R8 or a C1 to a C2, which are zoning changes, but it's a neighborhood plan, so it has to look at housing, economic development, jobs, education, mass transit, parks, transportation. Right. It has to look at how people move through the community, how they can better move, how they have access to health and wellness, better supermarkets, better retail, better commercial. And I also want to emphasize that in this corridor, a major priority for me and Fernando is the Jerome auto industry. industry, the automobile businesses that are along Jerome Avenue that provide a vital, needed service that we want to maintain. The challenge is that when you look at neighborhood rezonings and land use items, they are very controversial because people see the city being unaffordable every day. They have seen neighborhoods change drastically. They have felt the push-out, price-out effect, and they don't want that to happen in the Bronx. So we have a lot at stake. A lot is on the line, and after 3 years, I feel better, but I'm not satisfied that we've gotten everything we need.
You touched upon something that I wanted to hear because I heard a lot of residents talk about this. If you're going to have this construction go on,
right,
what about us?
Right.
We should be a part of this process in terms of hiring, being a part of, if you're building up in our community, then the people who are unemployed, who have the skill set should be afforded that opportunity.
Right.
So talk to me about that MWBE utilization as well as having people being able to just work from the community.
Right. So overall, the city of New York has provided a very ambitious goal of, I believe it's 20% of each agency achieving MWBE contracts, and the millions of dollars we award every year to various providers, making sure that there are MWBE provisions. But in the neighborhood plan, we get the best incentive out of the RFP. When there is a new building that we are constructing, HPD issues a request for proposals. We get a number of proposals from developers, and we put indicating factors in the RFP that we want. How is your hiring practice? How is your worker environmental safety provisions, construction industry? How do you hire from the local community? We set the bar as a city, and that's how we receive proposals, and we make a decision based on who submits the best proposal. So we do have a lot of leverage as a city and as a government, and I say to anybody who's interested, it's really important for us to be a part of the process and make sure that in any final plan, there are local hiring provisions as well as MWBE provisions.
All right, Councilwoman Vanessa Gibson. So what comes next? What do we keep our eyes out for?
So next year in January, we have new members coming into the City Council. We have a new speaker. We have 3 new members from the Bronx delegation, District 8, District 13, as well as District 18. So I do have new colleagues that will be joining us in the Bronx. We obviously need to deal with affordability of housing, the homelessness crisis. We need to look at public education. The Department of Ed announced this week a series of renewal schools that are slated for closure, which is very disturbing to me because I'm losing one of my renewal schools. We have a lot on our agenda. We have a federal administration that attacks us on every end. They want to be immigration ICE agents and come into our courts and our schools and remove our parents and children. It's unacceptable in this country. But, you know, I think when you look at things that are happening across the country, like the incredible U.S. Senate race in Alabama, we are just really invigorated and we're encouraged that all hope is not lost. You have legislators in this borough and this city council that care, that want to represent the people. We're not perfect, but we are getting things done. And all credit to Melissa Mark Viverito, our outgoing speaker, for her incredible leadership, supporting women, children, seniors, a young girls initiative, immigration, the right to counsel, which gives residents low income free legal services in eviction proceedings. We've made transformative change that is really unheard of. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But we do have a long way to go, and I do feel comfortable knowing that we have an incredible team in the Bronx and moving forward in the city.
Councilwoman Vanessa Gibson from the 16th Council.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Happy holidays to you.
All right.
Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa.
Yeah, and all of that, right? Listen, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with more Open. We'll be right back right after this.
Coming to you from our BronxNet studios, 4 new shows highlighting some of the best of the Bronx has to offer. We sit down with political leaders on In the District and discuss local legislation, events, and issues. See how the community and business come together with The Bronx Now on BronxNet. Nosotros features leaders from a Latino community. Meet those who are moving to make a difference in public service, business, arts, and culture. Looking for new and exciting dining experiences? Then you'll want to savor the Bronx and try new restaurants and eateries that fill the borough with delicious dishes. We have it all, so experience the Bronx in new and fresh ways on BronxNet.
Welcome, everybody. We are open. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS. You can catch me on there each and every night right after the Quiet Storm. You can catch me right here on Open, 10 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. Let's just call it on the 10s and then just keep it tuned. And we got you covered like a blanket, okay? I'm out in the community and we're all over the place because we are now open.
Well, the Senate has passed the final version of the first overhaul tax code, making President Donald Trump one step closer to winning his first legislative victory. Joining us now to discuss the tax bill and the effects it will have on Americans is the owner of Retrovision Media and our political commentator, Lee Bynes. And Lee, good to have you.
Good to be back.
Good. 51-48 vote across party lines. Some people say this was expected, but the question remains, what is this going to mean for the president in terms of having, quote unquote, a win?
Well, you know what? I got it right here. Tax victory and what it means. It's his first legislative victory. He's probably going to get it. The Senate has voted. It's going to go back to the House. The House is pretty much guaranteed to pass it and put this thing on his desk probably by today. By noon today, we're going to have a whole new tax structure in place. What it actually means going forward, most analysts who've had a few minutes to take a look at it, and I guarantee you that's pretty much all they've had because this thing the details didn't come out until Monday. Tuesday they started the voting process, and here we are here on Wednesday. So the details remain murky at best, and that was the plan because most people who have taken a look at this thing realize that this is pretty much a tax cut for the big rich and big business. And of course, this was pretty much promoted by big donors. So I don't think it should be a surprise. I think we should have seen this coming when Donald Trump was elected president and he started to populate his cabinet with millionaires and billionaires. It was hard to see these folks settling to cut their own throats. They were, for the most part, they're going to be the big winners in this. The middle class, and they'll see something. In fact, that's what they're using to sell this idea, is that everybody's going to get some relief. What they don't understand yet is that how little that relief is actually going to be. It's minuscule.
Okay. They're calling for me to take a break. Let me take a quick break. We'll be back more open. Stay with us. We'll come back with Lee in just a few seconds right after this. And we're back continuing our conversation with our political analyst, Lee Bynes, as we talk about the Senate passing the bill. The Senate bill passed 51-48, pretty much along party lines. Lee's been breaking it down for us. We resume our conversation. Let's talk about Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. This is his comment saying that, quote, this legislation is a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
Well, it's a once-in-a-generation mistake as far as a lot of those on the Democratic side. People like Bernie Sanders and Nancy Pelosi came out and pretty much put the kibosh on this plan from the giddy up. You have to understand that this was, in a lot of senses I mentioned earlier, where it was ramrodded through. It was a smash and grab type of situation. It was sort of like a criminal going into the mall. They don't care about witnesses. They don't care about the cops. They don't care about anything but getting what they want done. So the plan had no debate, it had no public hearings, it had no expert testimonies, and it had no time literally for review. Again, when this plan comes through, there is some good news in this, by the way, if you happen to be a Democrat, and as Nancy Pelosi said, that they're going to have to wear this around their neck for the 2018 election. When we looked at the polling numbers that came out on this thing, we have 55% of the people saying that it was a bad plan, it was a no-go situation, you can't do this thing. We only had 33% that felt okay with it, and the remaining 11% really was clueless. So in what the Republicans are telling the public right now, or the GOP is telling the public right now, is that in February you're going to see some change, you're going to see the results of this in your paycheck. Now, when they ran the numbers, they're talking about anywhere from $1,400 to $1,800 annually that people will save on their taxes. This is people who are living on $45,000, a family of four living on $45,000 a year. If you're living on $45,000 a year in New York City as a family of four, you're doing very, very badly. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to see how $1,400 or $1,800 is going to make life any better for you. So when I outline this stuff, and the big thing that I want to make sure that people are aware of is that in this package that's been passed is that they actually eliminated the mandatory participation in the health plan. Once they got rid of that, we're looking at a minimum of 13 million people losing their care over the next few years. Now, the Republicans' response to that is that, oh, no. Because we got rid of the mandate, these 13 million people are going to be leaving the plan voluntarily because they won't be forced to participate. But that is not true. And I would debate anybody who would try and push forward on that. Now, again, the plan that we're looking at right now, they're saying that well, over the next 10 years, we're going to have between 3%, 4%, 5% growth. Then that should offset the $1.5 trillion that this is going to add to the national debt. The national debt is something that the Republicans they were adamant about not adding to it. Mm-hmm. But once this thing came along, once we had the billionaires and millionaires in the cabinet, and the donors who are backing them, it seems like the deficit is no longer a major issue. They're saying that, yeah, growth could take care of this. Now, this is a global situation we have to consider here. And because the companies that are going to get the major tax breaks, these are not just U.S. companies. These are multinational companies. They have a fiduciary responsibility to provide value to their stockholders.
Let me get in here and ask this about 2018. We've got midterm elections coming around the corner.
Yep.
We saw what just happened in Alabama with Doug Jones defeating Roy Moore. A little bit of a different set of circumstances, but yet and still, there's a growing sentiment now that, listen, if there's a problem such as this tax bill, that we could see great turnout in the 2018 midterm elections. Do you agree that this is going to be the catalyst to get a lot of people to vote back to the polls?
I can't say that it'll be the catalyst, but it will definitely be one of the big ticket items that the Democrats will be able to hang their hat on. Again, in February, when people see how paltry, how minuscule the average person is going to get out of this, I think there's going to be a revolt on your hands, and nothing will keep people from the polls at that stage of the game. So Nancy Pelosi, maybe if she doesn't decide to leave the political stage, she could be the Speaker of the House again. And if that happens, of course, well, now we're looking at impeachment proceedings, because the only thing that's keeping Donald Trump in office right now is the fact that the GOP controls the House and the Senate. But that could all change in 2018, because there's a lot of people revved up, not only about the tax situation, but a plethora of issues that they've come to literally despise about Donald Trump.
Well, the Democrats are saying this. Listen, there was no time for review on this, and definitely no debating this. Something of this magnitude. You got committees saying we've seen nothing. This is really the first time ever that this has ever happened. So when you look at something like this and you hear this, what comes to your?
Well, it's not so much just the Democrats that didn't know what was in the plan. A lot of Republicans didn't have any idea what was going on in the plan, and therein lies their problem, because again, in February, when people actually get a feel for what's really going on or what's really happened to them, the Republicans are going to have to go back to their constituents and explain to them that, the difference of what they were told and what actually occurred. Now, Donald Trump, in fairness to him, this man is just checking off boxes of campaign promises. He promised to change the tax code. He promised to cut taxes. He promised to get rid of Obamacare. He's done all of those things, climate change, the works. The thing is that the people who voted for him were in such a state of disappointment and disenchantment where the country was going that they were willing to vote almost for Satan himself if they thought that they could get a few dollars out of it. And so what happened is that it was in my estimation, Donald Trump being previously a television reality star, celebrity type of thing, people bought into that, and it was a bait and switch situation, and now we're stuck with the switch.
So as we look forward now in the next couple of weeks, what can we expect?
A wait and see attitude again. This bill is definitely going to be passed. Mm-hmm. It'll definitely be signed. Donald Trump over the holidays will take a victory lap around and boast about what he did to bring the biggest tax cut in American history. But again, it's only going to take about 60 to 90 days beyond the passing of this bill for us to know exactly how it's going to affect the average American voter, the average American taxpayer. Right now, since Donald Trump is saying that, oh my God, I'm going to suffer like you wouldn't believe. But we have no idea to verify that because we don't know what he's been paying in taxes previously, and we won't know what he'll be paying in taxes moving forward. So aside from a Mueller investigation victory on his own turf, we're pretty much going to be stuck with this man through 2018.
All right. Lee Bonds, our political commentator, thanks so much for coming. Lee Bonds, we'll be back more open. Stay with us. We've got more show coming up right after this.
I got a creak in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. Let's get on. But if you throw me out, I'll throw you some more.
Well, thousands of people are currently sitting in jail because they simply can't afford bail. Our next guest is a part of a project that will not only help low-income families in New York City, but across the United States when it comes to the issue of bail. Telling us now more about the Bail Project, we welcome the Bail Director, or I should say the Bail Project Director of Operations, Mr. Ezra Richin, who joins us here. And Ezra, good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, once again, we're back and talking, but I want to get people caught up on this. So your organization pretty much helps out and really bails out a lot of people who have been involved with misdemeanor crime. Mm-hmm. And talk to us about the project and what it means for those people who might be incarcerated and the services that you provide.
Yeah, so the Bail Project is a national organization that aims to bail out over 150,000 people across the country over the next 5 years, and it all started here in the Bronx. I think to understand what we're doing, I think you first have to understand what bail really is and what it's supposed to be, which are, in fact, two different things. So, legally and historically, bail is supposed to be an incentive to return to court. So the court says, give us $500, you do. At the end of your case, if you've made it to all your court dates, they refund that money. If you don't, they keep it. So it's kind of like having skin in the game. It's an incentive to return to court. The problem is that, in the South Bronx and in low-income communities of color across the country, that's not attainable. So in the Bronx, if you have bail set at $1,000 or less, 85% of people can't make that. 85% of people can't make that. Almost 2/3 of Americans don't have access to $500 in emergency savings. So what that means in the Bronx is that you have two options if you can't pay bail. You either go to Rikers Island, which is so notoriously violent that the mayor has vowed to shut it down, or you go to a facility that is known as the Boat. It's a military barge that was brought up from New Orleans, docked off of the East River in Hunts Point, and is wedged between the Department of Sanitation and a wholesale fish market. And you have 900 men, mostly men of color, being shackled and brought onto a boat in the East River because they cannot afford a bail payment. And those are your options if you can't pay bail in New York City. And mind you, these are all people who have yet to be convicted of a crime, who may never be convicted of a crime, and who are presumed innocent until proven guilty.
And so when we talked about this before, I found a very interesting statistic. When you talked about people who paid bail, they pretty much make they come back to court.
Yeah, so it's funny. The idea of bail is supposed to be an incentive to return to court, like I said, but the people we bail out have no money of their own on the line. They have no quote-unquote skin in the game, and yet 95% of our clients come back to all of their court dates. And coming back to all of your court dates in New York City means you're in one of the most backlogged court systems in the country. So we just had a client whose case was dismissed after she came back to 19 court dates over 28 months. So coming back to court is not a walk in the park. It means that you will be here for months or even years coming back, and it exposes the myth of cash bail. Cash bail is supposed to be an incentive to return to court. If people are returning without that, with just phone reminders and text messages, then it begs the question, what is cash bail really doing? And I think our results demonstrate that. So for people who are held in bail until the end of their case, held in on bail, in jail, on Rikers or the Boat, over 90% will plead guilty in order to go home. For our clients who are home, who can work with their attorneys, who can return to their jobs, their families, their communities, go back to school oftentimes for our younger clients, over half of them have their cases dismissed entirely. So it kind of exposes what bail is not doing. It's not forcing people to come back to court. What it's really doing is forcing people to plead guilty.
And that's one of the things that I want to talk about, because you find a lot of people who say, listen, I simply can't make the bail. Let me just do this, hurry up and get this over with. And now you started a criminal record even further with now a conviction in many times simply because you just couldn't make bail.
Exactly. So the conviction will follow you into the job market, into the housing market, into attempts to get financial aid for schooling. And before that even happens, before you plead guilty, you have to sit in jail. And I like to say there's no such thing as just a short jail stay. So if you are in jail for a few days, a lot of things will unravel. So people who are living in homeless shelters, if they don't sign in for 24 or 48 hours, they and possibly their entire families will be living on the street. If you have a job and you don't call in, you'll likely lose that job. Half of all jail deaths, including suicide, happen in the first week. Over 40% of sexual victimization in jail happens in the first 3 days. So we are really tearing apart people's lives who can't pay bail.
So if somebody can't pay bail, how do you go about determining who's qualified and who's not?
Right, so the first step in New York State is the judge, and everywhere is the judge setting an amount that we are able to pay. In New York, that's $2,000 or less. And after that, we're looking for people who have roots in the community and who we're able to contact. Because what we found is that instead of sending someone to Rikers Island or the Boat, if you send them a text message or a reminder, they will come to court. So if we have a way of getting in touch with that person, either through them, for our younger clients, through their family members, grandmother, social worker, whatever it is, if you have a way of getting in touch with someone, then they will come back to court and have that presumption of innocence restored.
How do you get the funds to be able to post bail on behalf of people?
We get the funds from a lot of private individuals who I think are angry at this system and want to do something direct about it, which we're doing, and I think also who recognize that hey, if I had $500 bail set, I'd be able to make that in a second. There's an ATM across the street, and I have 100 people I could call who could come over and do that. So why are there thousands of people in New York City? 45,000 people in New York City go to jail every year for their inability to pay bail. Why are all these people being sent to jail for that? And why are almost all of them from low-income communities of color?
You're doing it here in the Bronx. It starts here in the borough of the Bronx,
Yeah.
and but you're going nationwide.
Yes, we are. So it really all did start here in the Bronx in 2007. Robin Steinberg and David Feiga, who were at the Bronx Defenders, decided to found the Bronx Freedom Fund and start this organization in 2007 to help clients who are held in on these low bails. And it started in the Bronx, and if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, right?
Yeah, that's true. So you said within 5 years, you're looking at 40 sites across the country. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's going to be good. As we talk a little bit more, I want to talk about the donations that you received. You got individual investors.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have other people coming on board and saying, listen, I see what you're doing, I want to help?
That's the hope, and I think we're also seeing lots of individuals from across the country who are coming in and saying, we want to do something about this, and it really is a direct means of engaging, because if you have an interest in ending mass incarceration and fighting back against mass incarceration, getting someone out who is stuck in for their race and poverty is a very clear and simple and clean-cut way of doing that.
Mm-hmm. What pushback have you gotten? Because I know you get a lot of pushback, talking about, listen, this is the wrong thing to do. You're setting criminals free. You're helping, but your response to that is what?
Well, I think our response is that these people are presumed innocent until proven guilty. That if you are presumed innocent until proven guilty, why are you sitting on a jail cell? Why is Rikers Island? Why are 4 out of 5 people on Rikers Island? Why are they pre-trial? 4 out of 5 people on Rikers Island have not been convicted of a crime. 89% of Rikers Island is Black and Latino. But why have we created this system? And I think it really comes down to what our priorities are. We're spending $670 per person per night to house someone on Rikers Island. That is the nightly cost. Why aren't we investing those resources into communities, into education? We just are hearing about a tax plan that I know you discussed earlier in the show, and people are worried about ability to access health care, ability to access public schools for their kids, and yet we're spending almost $700 a night to keep people in jail who haven't been convicted of a crime.
Mm-hmm. We got families watching right now, and I'm sure they're watching right now. Somebody says, listen, I might have a loved one that's behind bars.
Mm-hmm.
What's the process for them if they're considering the Bail Project?
Yeah, so they can reach out to the Bail Project at hello@bailproject.org. That's the most direct way of reaching us, hello@bailproject.org. You can go directly to bailproject.org, and if you are specifically in New York City, you can go to thebronxfreedomfund.org.
And if you're outside New York City?
bailproject.org.
There you go. All right, well, Ezra, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us, and we'll continue to follow the Bail Project as they continue to do great work in the community.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Ezra Richard, our guest. Listen, we'll take a quick break. Got more show. We want you to stay with us. Open will return right after this.
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown and feel technique. After the first drown, a good start. Next, another drink. And finally, a close feel.
Is it cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Smokey, catch! Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments when we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count, because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help. And slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Well, Bronx business Metro Optics launched a new glasses line, bringing the community together to celebrate. Our BronxNet cameras are there, and we'll take a look.
Throg's next Metro Optics store welcomes the Coco and Breezy eyewear collection. The dynamic duo shared their designs with the Bronx, so we too could experience this unique style.
Our design process, we're just really inspired by art. We take we take design really seriously. So we think that whatever we make for our eyewear, we feel like it should be a piece of art, but we also put our design aesthetic from start to finish. So everything starts with Breezy with our sketching, and she'll go for it with that. We travel a lot as well, so we take a lot of our travels into consideration when designing. And I love to start on actual paper. I love sketching, the feeling of sketching on paper. And from there, we bring it into the digital form. And from the digital form becomes a prototype, and the prototype then becomes production.
I had been following them on Instagram for some time, and I knew I wanted to meet them, so we made the connection. I saw their beautiful eyewear in person, and it's really fantastic. Bold, eclectic shapes, colors, styles, and I knew that it was a brand that we wanted to bring to Metro Optics.
The celebration, which involved performances from Grandmaster Cass and Grandmaster Melly Mel, showcased the historical feat these women are taking on as they break barriers in the eyewear community, pushing for diversity.
Very talented, and I hope they have a lot of success with their eyewear line. It's good to see people branch out and do things like that, especially the young people.
We really represent women in business, people of color in the eyewear industry, just people of everybody. And our ultimate goal is to really show people that you can, one, start a company, but two, in this eyewear industry, if there's anyone over here that wants to start their own eyewear brand, we are the eyewear mentors, and we are mentoring a few people right now to help them figure out how do you start an idea into production. And that's our bigger picture, is that I think it's all about just helping people.
The stylish company has made a name for itself in the media realm, so people beyond these four walls know of the Coco and Breezy collection.
It's out in the Twitterverse, bro. Like these two right here, they've been inventing, trend setting. They got mad style, and it's showing in their glasses that they're showing out there.
We actually interviewed them last year, and we've been following their career, and they really wanted to get into optical in a very serious way, and part of our job is to support new designers in the industry.
For more information, head over to www.cocoandbreezy.com. From BronxNet, this is Shanice Powell.
Looking good. Thank you, Shanice. In other news, the Citizens Committee for New York City is dedicated to helping New Yorkers who want to create a positive impact on their community by providing up to $3,000 in grants. We joined now by someone who's going to tell us more about the organization and the neighborhood grants application for 2018. We welcome now the Citizens Committee for New York City Community Outreach Coordinator, Andre Mozique, and thank you so much for being with us.
No, thank you for having us.
Good, good. So talk to us about this, because it's an opportunity for city residents to take part.
Yeah, absolutely. Citizens Committee's mission is to help New Yorkers, and especially those in low-income communities, to lead projects that create quality of life improvements and changes and positively impact their communities.
So for people who want to take part in this, what's the criteria?
So we do have pretty open criteria. It's a core part of our mission to be as open as possible so that New Yorkers from all walks of life are able to apply for these grants. There's not really very many restrictions. If you think about it, our main restrictions are that we are unable to fund fully staffed organizations and organizations with budgets of more than $40,000 a year. And that's pretty much it. There are a couple of great programs that we've worked with in the past, especially in schools and projects that are brought on by organizations who've been inspired by things that are going on largely around the city and want to see something similar in their community that they want to lead, and we're happy to work with them.
So some of the projects you guys have supported: community gardening, visual and performing arts, nutrition awareness, beautification, and tenant immigrant organizing. So you get a variety of different people coming at you.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything from arts projects. We've got a really great project that we funded or helped to support in the Bronx here this past year called Baby Dunk. So anything from sports teams and leagues, even to public schools, creating gardens and green spaces, and as you mentioned, healthy eating initiatives for students.
And so when you talk about you don't have to be an established not-for-profit organization or have a 501c3 to be eligible, because a lot of people say, if I got to have that 501c3, but you're saying no, you don't have to.
Right. No, and this is something that people bring to us. It's a concern that some people have, but it's, again, with part of the application process, we don't expect everybody who's applying for our grants to be a bona fide grant writing professional. We want to make sure our application is easy and open, and that includes making it open to individuals who aren't part of a 501c3 nonprofit. We love to give grants to groups of neighbors, block associations, tenant organizing associations, so that they can really tackle the issues that they encounter every day. Right? They're the people who are on the ground and really experiencing maybe some sort of problem or a lack of service in their community. And we hope to give them support so that they can build a project around that.
Now, last year you helped about what, 500 people that you were able to fund.
Yeah, exactly. And that's done throughout the year through a variety of different grant programs that we offer. Coming up very soon, we have our neighborhood grants for 2018. That's sort of our largest grant for the year. It's $3,000. But we offer grants to support composting programs, grants to support general block beautification programs, and we've been doing it for quite a while. So we've reached almost every single part of the city. Again, with those 500 groups just this past year, but we're always looking to expand and sort of figure out where we haven't made an impact yet.
What can you tell me about the Young Citizens Committee?
Cool. So Young Citizens Committee is a really great group of really active and interested young professionals who want to support Citizens Committee's mission, but might be working or engaged in some other way. And so they help us with fundraising, helping out on volunteer projects, and just generally making sure that there's a component, a piece of Citizens Committee that is engaged in all the communities that we're able to be engaged in.
And so for young people, what does it mean to have that opportunity and that experience to get involved at an early age?
Yeah, I think it's been very enriching for our Young Citizens Committee members. A lot of them go to community board meetings and do outreach. So for them, it's especially a great chance to engage with sort of the local structures of government at the community board level, and then to engage with communities and block associations, really meet their neighbors, or explore new parts of the city where they didn't have any sort of connection, but want to create an impact in some sort of way.
And so for people who don't know much about your organization, they can go to the website, I take it?
Yes, absolutely. So our website is citizensnyc.org. And you can find a listing of our past grantees if you're looking for maybe a project idea or to see where in the city we've been able to have any sort of impact. We have great maps on there. On our website, we also list some of the other resources that we offer, which include an equipment rental library for different projects that we support. You can rent AV equipment, tents for a community fair, things like that. We also offer workshops and trainings throughout the year, and the dates for those are listed on our website.
And so give me the response that you get from people, because this is something that's rather unique. I mean, most of the time, as we said, you usually hear 501c3 and you got to have this, you got to have that, but you set the bar not so high. Well, it's attainable, and it doesn't put people through a lot of red tape. What kind of response do you get? Because I know community members have to be excited just to know that this is out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the really fun things about my job is that I get to come and say, we've got the money. What do you want to do? And New Yorkers are really responsive to that. We were founded in 1975, sort of in the midst of the fiscal crisis that was facing the city at that time. And there was a lack of tax revenue coming into the city. lack of federal support, and New Yorkers really banded together to make sure that they could affect change on the community level. And I think that spirit is really carried through. And so when people feel like they have agency or they have resources that they can use to enact change, New Yorkers are really ready to jump on it.
And you know, your award grants up to $3,000. So some people say, oh, that's not a lot of money, but to the organizations that you really put a hand to, it really means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about buying T-shirts for a school group just to show support for the group project that they're working on, or give them exposure to a new experience. And that impact, you know, it's $3,000, but that impact goes a very long way. Has potentially lifelong impacts, even when you're talking about beautifying a neighborhood, right, and creating that community feel and connecting neighbors who may have just passed each other on the street before. Now they have something that they can sort of gather around, and a moment or a memory that they can look back on fondly.
So for people who want to know more information, listen, you can call 212-822-9567, www.citizensnyc.org. So the deadline. People are saying yes, we got to talk about the deadline.
Absolutely. So we have our grant application deadline for the up to $3,000 neighborhood grants on January 22nd. If you'd like to submit your application early by January 5th, our programs team is on hand and they're glad to help anybody work through a project and build it out a little bit more. But yeah, that deadline, January 22nd, we get all the applications and review them, and hopefully we get a lot of really great ones from the Bronx.
So after you get the applications in, it's going to be January 22nd. That's going to be the last day to get it in. How long before we get a response?
So we have a really intensive process. Again, we get around 600 or 700 applications in a year. And so we aim to let grantees know that they're receiving funding by late April. Okay. And then you can carry projects through the summer, through the winter, and up until the next grant application period.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Andre Mozique is our guest in the studio. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Community Outreach Coordinator for CCNY, the Citizens Community for New York. As we said, if you want to find out more information, that grant deadline is January the 22nd. So please go to the website, give them a call, and I'm sure they'll be glad to put you in the right direction. I know your phone will be ringing real soon.
Yeah.
All right, Andre. Yes, Andre, our guest. Listen, want to let you know we've come to the end of our show today. Want to thank our guests for joining us. Most of all, I want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Cablevision's Channel 67. If you have Verizon Fios, that would be Channel 33. Or you can watch us anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. I'm Daren Jaime. It's definitely been a pleasure coming to your homes. Reminding you, stay safe. And most of all, keep this channel wide open. Take care. God bless. And if we don't see you before, definitely have a Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Happy New Year. We want to wish you all of that. Whatever you're celebrating, hey, happy it as we get ready to get towards 2018. Take care.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help. And slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.